Hey guys, Mr. T here. This is another video. It's been a while. This one is on projects and precedence tables. Apologies about any issues with my voice. I had some teeth pulled, so we'll see how we go. So all projects, from complex things like building a house to simple things like making a cup of tea, require completion of a number of smaller tasks in a particular order to complete that project. If you do them in the wrong order, it's not going to work. Alright, so there is a particular order of completion to these smaller tasks for a project. Some of the tasks depend on nothing else, so you can do them independently, or out of order, basically. Other tasks require completion of other tasks, so they are said to have prerequisites, or prerequisite tasks. So let's have a think about those things using this basic project. Below are listed the basic tasks that make up the set of tasks required to make a cup of tea. So our project is making a cup of tea. It's made up of a set of tasks, and we've broken it down into those basic set of tasks, okay? So we've got stirring the tea, take approximately 10 seconds, retrieving the teacups, 15 seconds, adding milk and sugar to the tea, 15 seconds, place the tea bags into the cups, 10, pour boiling water in the cups, 10, fill the kettle with water, 20, boil the water in the kettle, 100. So what we're going to try to illustrate with this example is thinking about each of these tasks individually, whether they're independent or not, whether they depend on something else, and putting them into a particular order, and then finally putting them into a precedence table and labeling them with letters for ease of use. Okay, so we've got three things to do here. Identify the tasks that we can do independently. B, identify the tasks with prerequisites and then name their immediate prerequisites. And then lastly, like I said, put all these tasks into a precedence table and label them. So I'm going to scroll up here so we can only see the examples. So there's no like hard and fast way or formula to do this. You just have to think about it, yeah? So we need to work out what's independent. So let's think of them in order. Stirring the tea. I can't do that independently because I need to have tea in the cups in the first place. I need to get the cups in the first place. I need to have water in there. How do I know that there's prerequisite stuff? I have a cursory glance at all these other things and decide whether any of these should have happened before for me to be able to stir the tea. And obviously there's plenty of things that should happen before I stir the tea, so stirring the tea could not be independent. However, we think about the second one, retrieving the teacups. That doesn't depend on anything. I don't need to have boiling water in there. I don't need to have tea bags in there. I don't need to have milk and sugar in the cups to be able to go get them. So this is probably one of the first things I need to do. Is probably can be done independently. So retrieving the teacups. I would argue is independently done. Alright, so have a think about the following ones. Add milk and sugar to the tea. Well, that depends on the tea being on there in the first place, or in the cups in the first place. Place the tea bags into the cups. That can't be done independently because that requires me to have retrieved the cups in the first place. Pour boiling water into the cups. Well, that depends on me having boiled the water. Put the water in the kettle first, boil it, and have the cups in the first place, so that's not independent. Fill the kettle with water. That is something that I could do without doing anything else. That doesn't depend on me having the cups there. That doesn't depend on me having placed tea bags into the cups. That is the immediate predecessor of boiling the water. It must be one of the first things I could do without relying on anything else. Filling the kettle with water. So fill the kettle with water. That can be independently done. Lastly, boil the water in the kettle. That relies on there being water in the kettle in the first place, so that is not independently done. Okay, so that is the first thing to think about, a task that can be done independently. B, identify tasks with prerequisites and state their immediate prerequisite tasks. So we've identified what don't have prerequisites, what can be done independently, so the remainder must have prerequisites. So we just have to work out what's the immediate prerequisite of all of them. So the first one we got here is stir the tea. Stir the tea. And we'll draw an arrow pointing that way because the task that we're writing is the immediate prerequisite to it. So what would I have to have? Why would I be stirring the tea? Because I've added stuff to the tea, so add milk and sugar. Milk and sugar to the tea. Why would I stir it up if I hadn't added those in the first place? Okay, so that's the immediate prerequisite. I'm going to stop there. I don't need to write the other prerequisites of that. I'm only interested in the immediate prerequisite of stirring the tea. The second one that wasn't independent was add milk and sugar to the tea. What's the immediate prerequisite of that? Well, I wouldn't be retrieving the cups immediately before that because I'd need to do something between those. I wouldn't be stirring it because I have to have the milk and the sugar in there in the first place. I would want to have the water in the cups, so pour boiling water into the cups so that I can add the milk and sugar to the tea. The next non-independent would be pour boiling water into the cups. What would I immediately have to have done before that? Well, boil the water in the kettle, I would guess. Boil the water in the kettle. I have to have some boiling water in the first place to put boiling water in the cups. I missed one, which was place tea bags into the cups. What would I have to have done before that? I would have had to get the cups in the first place. Retrieve the cups. And the last non-independent one, because fill the kettle with water was independent, boil the water in the kettle. What would I have to have done before that? Well, there has to be water in the kettle before I boil it, so fill the kettle with water. Okay, so simply thinking about all of these tasks, hopefully all of you had made a cup of tea, otherwise this example may not be useful for you. You just need to think about them and work out what should come before the other tasks and which are independent. Lastly, now that we've done all this, now that we've organized our thoughts and put this information down, we can put them into a precedence table. So what is a precedence table? A precedence table shows tasks in order with their timings, which we already have. So that table from above is almost a precedence table. And their immediate prerequisites. So really, a precedence table looks like what we have above, but what's missing from there is a column for immediate prerequisites. So we need to rewrite that again. And we want to write it in order. So, and we need to label them from A to G as well. So, what do we have here? Tasks. And set them A to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We need to have a think about what would we do first. So firstly, retrieve the cups. And the timing in seconds, which we have the info for. And lastly, a precedence table has a prerequisites column. Prerequisite. Retrieve the cups. Fill kettle with water. They're the two independent tasks. They will always go first. What would come next? It's variable, but I've decided that I would go place tea bags in cups. What would come next? Well, straight after filling the kettle with water, I would boil the water in the kettle. What would I do after placing tea bags in the cups? Pour boiling water in the kettle. Pour the boiling water into the cups. So I'm just shortening a little bit what the tasks are. They're the same, I've just reworded them slightly. After there's water in the cups and I've got tea bags in there, add milk and sugar. And lastly, I would stir it up to mix in the milk and sugar. Stir the tea. We need to look at the durations here. So remembering back from above. Quick squeeze. Okay. Getting the cups took 15 seconds. Filling the kettle with water took 20 seconds. Placing tea bags into the teacups took 10. Boiling the water in the kettle took a long time, 100. Pour boiling water into the cups took 10. Add milk and sugar took 15. And stirring the tea took 10. And so lastly, prerequisites, because we already thought about it as part of the question, we have the info right there. So what would I need to do, and thinking about the independent as well, we put retrieving the cups and fill the kettle with water right at the start of this table because they were independently done. They didn't depend on anything, so they have no prerequisites. Placing tea bags in the tea cups, well, that relies on having retrieved the cups in the first place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cups to put the tea bags in. So the prerequisite of C was A. What's the prerequisite of boiling water in the tea kettle? Well, filling the kettle with water, so the prerequisite of that is B. E, pour boiling water into the cups. Well, to pour boiling water in the cups, I need to have boiled water in the kettle first, so the prerequisite of that is D. But also, I need to have had cups in the first place, and to have tea bags in those cups. So C is also a prerequisite of pouring the boiling water into the cups. Adding the milk and sugar, that only depends on having poured the boiling water into the cups. So the prerequisite of adding milk and sugar, F, is E. And lastly, stirring the tea, that depends on me having added milk and sugar to the cups, so the prerequisite of that is F. G is not the prerequisite of anything, so it is the completion of making a cup of tea. Alright, so last thing to think about is the fact that the table, precedence tables, only show the immediate prerequisite for tasks. Okay. However, as C is a prerequisite of E, and A is a prerequisite of C, A is also a prerequisite of E, because it's a prerequisite of the immediate prerequisite of E. It's a prerequisite but down the line, okay? It's implied that it's a prerequisite of E if it was a prerequisite of the immediate prerequisite of E, okay? For E to happen, you need to have placed tea bags in the teacups, and to have placed tea bags in the teacups, I need the cups in the first place, so A precedes doing E. Alright, so that's another last thing to think about when you're reading precedence tables. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit, and I will see you in the next video.